Hey YouTubers! Welcome. Today I'm going to talk about why I love photography. So welcome, but first, coffee. That's better. So, I fell in love with coffee as a teenager. True story. Yeah. So my sister brought home Starbucks one time. We lived in a little town. There was no Starbucks. We didn't have internet, so didn't know what that was. Didn't know what we didn't even have cable. So no cable, no internet. What's Starbucks? I don't know. But here's this Frappuccino, and it was incredible. I was like, what is this goodness in a cup? And so I had my very first Frappuccino at the tender age of about 12 years old and was instantly addicted. But anyhow, we're here to talk about photography, not coffee. So I fell in love with photography as a teenager when I was staying with a friend of the family for a few days, and she decided to do a photo shoot with me. And it was like a legitimate old school film camera. So we did a photo shoot, and it was just really cool. Like, I enjoyed dressing up, I enjoyed having the pictures taken, and then when she developed them, it was just like really neat to see me looking all cool in film. And I think that was the first time that I realized like you could actually do things to make the pictures turn out different. Before that, it was just kind of like a click and take the picture. Later I was in yearbook in high school, and I fell even more in love with photography. I would do anything I could to get the camera and go out and take pictures, and I just loved running around the school and sports teams and everywhere else, just taking pictures of everybody else. And everybody loved me. It was kind of like a popularity thing. They're like, ooh, I want to be in the yearbook, so I'm gonna be nice to her. But that was about the only time they liked me, was if I had the camera in my hand. But we just suppressed that one. No big deal. No big deal. Yeah. I got friends now. They like me even when the camera's left at home. Hit the like button if you know what I mean. Yeah, you too, huh? I'm sorry. It's cool. This bump. We're friends. I'll be your friend. Suppressed memories, man, it's rough. Coffee's always been my friend. So, then I started having children, and children are beautiful. And I would try to like take pictures of my firstborn, and they were really not good. Yeah. Aunt Getty's was really, really popular at the time, and so I would bury her in stuffed animals, and like you'd see her little face sticking out of the stuffed animals, and we did all kinds of weird things, but they still were just like, it was just lacking. And I was like, well, that's good for now. So when our second came along, my husband encouraged me to play with our point and shoot, which had a manual mode. And playing with the manual mode, I was able to learn a whole lot about how each aspect of the controls affected the other. Within a year, I got my first DSLR, and it was awesome, except it really wasn't. And I kept trying, and I enjoyed photography, but I wasn't getting it. Something wasn't clicking. And part of that was the gear, and part of that was my stubbornness in saying that you don't need to edit. Editing is for people who want extra edited, blah, 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 blah. And really it just translated to I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't want to look at a computer, and I didn't want to admit I didn't know what I was doing. So then we bumped up again to a better DSLR. So me and this camera, we just clicked. We worked. And I liked the feel of it was great. Working with it, like I just started to get to know photography better, and understanding manual mode better, and understanding lighting better. And a good friend gave me this tip of, once you understand light, everything falls into place. So there's your first tip. Understand light. And simply all that means is walking around throughout your day and seeing how light falls on different things and how the shadows fall on different things. And as you begin to realize how shadows and light are working together, it will improve your photography drastically. So I began taking photos of my kids, I love taking photos of my kids. I was a mom-tographer. Yeah. But you know what? Let me just get off on something here. What is a mom-tographer? Because I know so many dads who started in photography because they were taking pictures of their children and then they became photographers. We don't call them dad-tographers. So why do mom-tographers have a title? So as I was taking pictures of my children and posting them, people were asking me to do their photos, and that was terrifying. That was scary because I didn't even know what I was doing still, really. I was still just playing with it and learning it, but I loved it. And so slowly but surely I started to take clients on, mostly friends. I'd tell them, pay me what you can, pay me what you want, whatever. I don't expect anything. And it was a really fun journey. As more and more people hired me to do their photos, I got to know more. I should have known more before they hired me, but they were asking for me. And then came a time when people started asking me to do weddings. Weddings! That's scary, yo. Scary. I did say yes to one, and it was actually a lot of fun, and I thank God that everything turned out as it did, because I did not have the gear or the know-how to get through that wedding, and yet it turned out beautiful. So yeah, that was definitely a God thing, because I couldn't have done that. And after doing that wedding, I quickly realized I was not ready to do weddings. So I put them off. I kept having people ask me, and I would tell them no. However, occasionally there would be people who could not afford a photographer, and as their wedding day approached, I knew they weren't going to have a photographer, and so I would do it for family or friends, just people who otherwise wouldn't have any photos. And I learned a lot through that. And then one day I finally got my Canon 5D Mark III, and it was after years of learning the basics and the beyond the basics and studying up on lighting and how to light wedding ceremonies and events and receptions and everything in between. Eventually one day I was ready, but I had no idea how to jump into the wedding market. And then one day, by chance, somebody called my husband and said that their photographer had flaked out on them on the day of the wedding and needed a photographer within 2 hours. I was almost an hour away at a dentist appointment. So we flew home, grabbed our cameras, went to the wedding. Lo and behold, I had just happened to watch a YouTube video on how to light a barn reception the week before. This was a barn reception. So it was a gorgeous wedding. The photos are phenomenal. They still are some of my favorite photos ever, and it was literally thrown into the mix last minute. But I love photography because it captures these little moments that are really big moments in each day or each moment or each event, where you're capturing these interactions between a grandmother and a granddaughter, mother and daughter, son and mother, father, son. You're capturing these amazing little looks, these notions, these moments that are just fleeting, that one day they'll really cherish. They'll look back and they'll be so glad that they have this little moment they probably would have forgotten otherwise. That little glance, that laugh, that hug, that handshake. I just love capturing those intentional moments that are so beautiful and so fleeting, and just giving them to people to hold on to and cherish forever. And so that's why I fell in love with photography, was just that ability to capture something that would be gone forever if it hadn't been shot right then.